You ever look at someone and just know what they're feeling? Or do you wonder if your own face is giving away all your secrets?
I mean, it's this age-old quest, right? Trying to find some kind of universal language in our expressions, a hidden code that connects us all. But what happens when the search for that code leads us down a very, very dark path?
Well, in 1924, one scientist's obsession with decoding the human face took a seriously bizarre turn, one that uncovered a chilling truth, not about our faces, but about our deep-seated obedience. Welcome to Veiled Histories, where we pull back the curtain on the stories you were never meant to hear. So, picture this. It's the early 20th century, science is booming, and there's this big idea, kind of inspired by Darwin, that we could crack the code of human emotion just by looking at faces. A noble goal, right? But the road to hell, as they say, is paved with good intentions. And this is where our main character comes in, a psychologist at the University of Minnesota named Carney Landis. And Landis had a huge ambition. He wanted to create the definitive photo album of human feelings. But see, Landis wasn't interested in fake, posed smiles for the camera. No. He believed that to capture a real emotion, a true emotion, you had to actually create it, right there, in the lab. He needed to provoke genuine feelings in his subjects. And this is where things start to get really uncomfortable. Because it begs the question, to get a pure, raw expression of something like disgust, how far is too far? How far would you push someone for a good reason?
So Landis gets his subjects, who were mostly students who probably had no idea what they were signing up for, and he begins a series of tasks that just get weirder and more disturbing as the day goes on.
He had them smell ammonia, look at, let's just say, adult material. He even made them put their hands into a bucket of slimy frogs. And all the while, click, click, click goes the camera. He's hunting for that one perfect expression. But none of that was the main event. For the grand finale, the one designed to provoke ultimate, absolute revulsion, he needed to go bigger. He told them this was it. This was the most important part of the whole study. He brings out a live rat and a knife. And then he gives an order that it crosses every conceivable line. He told them, take this knife and behead the live rat. Just like that. A direct order to kill a living thing, all in the name of science. Okay, so I want you to really put yourself in that room for a second. You're there for a study. A man in a lab coat, a figure of authority, is telling you this is necessary. What do? What would you actually do in that moment? The wild thing is, Landis was so focused on their faces, on capturing that look of disgust, he almost completely missed what was really happening. He was about to make a huge discovery, but it had absolutely nothing to do with emotions or faces. The results, they're just staggering. 2/3, 67% of the participants, they did it. They took the knife and they killed the rat. And for the 1/3 who refused, get this, Landis just took the knife from them and beheaded the rat himself right in front of them. Just let that sink in. The majority of regular people just like you and me, were willing to do something so violent, so against probably everything they believed in, simply because a guy in a lab coat told them to. Look, the histories we dig up here aren't always pretty. In fact, they're often deeply unsettling, but we think it's absolutely crucial to uncover them. If you agree, and you want to help us keep bringing these veiled stories to light, the best way you can do that is to like, subscribe, and hit that little bell icon. It genuinely helps us continue our work. And here is the punchline, the absolute biggest irony of this whole twisted affair. After all that, Landis's original goal, it was a complete, total failure. He couldn't find any consistent expressions. The same person would make different faces for the same feeling. Different people made different faces. His study was so useless, it was literally called the most negative of its era. But in failing so badly, he accidentally conducted one of the most terrifying experiments on something else entirely, obedience. And what he found, decades before the experiment everyone has heard of, was a chilling preview of Stanley Milgram's infamous work on obedience to authority. When you look at it on a timeline, it's just wow. This is 1924. This is almost 40 years before Milgram. It's before the infamous Tuskegee study even began. Landis was stumbling around in this ethical darkness long before almost anyone else. And honestly, you could argue that what Landis asked people to do was way worse than Milgram. I mean, Milgram's subjects were just pressing a button. It was abstract. They thought they were hurting someone, but it was simulated. Landis's subjects, they had to physically, with their own hands, take a life. It was real. It was bloody. And you can't take it back. So, what's the legacy of these awful experiments? Well, it's complicated. The sheer horror of studies like the ones from Landis, Tuskegee, and Milgram created a massive public outcry. It forced the scientific world to take a long, hard look in the mirror and finally create rules to protect people.
And all of that eventually led to something called the Belmont Report. It laid down 3 basic, non-negotiable principles. 1, respect for persons. You have to get informed consent. 2, beneficence, which is a fancy way of saying do no harm. And 3, justice. You can't just put all the risks on one group of people. These rules, which protect all of us today, were basically written in the blood and trauma of these early experiments. And that brings us right back to that room in 1924. It's easy for us to sit here now and say, oh, I would have refused. I would have been in that 1/3. But the numbers say most of us wouldn't have. So the question isn't just about them, it's about us. If someone you trusted, someone with authority, told you that what you were doing, no matter how wrong it felt, was for the good of science, for a greater purpose, where would you draw your line?